I knew he was done when he unfollowed me. And I didn't even notice for 3 weeks, which is humiliating to admit, considering how hard I used to work to keep him wrapped around my finger. I thought Gavin would always be there, the kind of guy who folds your laundry without being asked, texts good morning before you're awake, Venmos you for no reason, tells your mom happy birthday before you remember it's her birthday. That kind of guy. And I walked away from him because he let me. Because somewhere along the way, I convinced myself I deserved more than Gavin's loyalty, more than his long hours at a tech job I didn't understand, more than the quiet weekends where we ordered Thai and rewatched Breaking Bad. I wanted ambition, money, chaos. I wanted to be noticed. So I noticed Alex. Alex wasn't better looking than Gavin. He was better dressed, and louder, and richer, and older. And when he invited me to his friend's rooftop party the same night Gavin had planned to take me to dinner for our anniversary, I lied. I said I had work. I didn't. I wore heels Gavin said hurt my posture, and a dress he called tacky. And I went with Alex to that party, and I let him touch my lower back in front of his friends. I let him pour me expensive whiskey. I laughed too loud at his jokes. I went home with him, then blocked Gavin's number in the lift back. I didn't cry. Not even when I saw Gavin had sent 3 messages. Are you okay? Just checking in. Happy anniversary, before my phone cut him off forever. Back then, I told myself I was brave, that I was leveling up, that Gavin would move on eventually, that he'd thank me, maybe, for forcing him to grow a spine, that he was too nice anyway. But 3 months later, after Alex told me I was a little too clingy and not the type you bring home, I tried to crawl back. It started with a mirror selfie in one of Gavin's old hoodies. Caption, "Miss this one." He didn't view it. Then a sad song. Then a quote. Then a boomerang of takeout from our Thai place. Then, shamelessly, a photo of me with his dog. Still nothing. I DM'd him finally. Just, hey. It stayed on delivered for 4 days. Then the icon changed. Seen. That was it. So I spiraled. I posted pictures with random guys. I left flirty comments on his old photos. I even texted his best friend something fake casual like, "You still owe me a beer," hoping it'd get back to Gavin. I started following his sister, his coworker, even his mom. She blocked me. It wasn't until I tried to tag him in a memory from 2 years ago that I realized he'd unfollowed me, blocked me, scrubbed me from his world like I never existed. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt erased. You'd think that would be my wake-up call, that I'd do the work, get into therapy, stop defining my value through validation. But no, I doubled down. I tried to win. I reached out to mutual friends. One of them told me Gavin had gotten a promotion, that he bought a condo, that he'd been seen with someone new. A brunette. Quiet. Pretty in that natural, no makeup, freckles, and flannel kind of way. Apparently she was a family friend. Someone his mom liked. Someone who brought wine to dinner and helped clean up. I felt sick. So I made it my mission to remind Gavin of what he lost. I bought a $1,200 dress with rent money, hired a photographer, posed on balconies I didn't own, booked a trip I couldn't afford, posted every second of it. Gavin never liked a single photo. But the new girl did. Twice. That's when I knew I wasn't invisible. I was pitied. I tried texting him again. "I'm sorry. I wasn't ready then. I see it now." Delivered. Seen. No reply. Then came the final blow. My landlord emailed me. Rent was overdue again. He's not renewing the lease. So I packed my things, moved back into my childhood bedroom, and watched through a cracked phone screen as Gavin posted a photo with the new girl in front of his condo. Same block I used to live on. Same view I gave up. Same guy I threw away, now holding the keys to a life I can't afford anymore. And the worst part? The caption just said, home. I didn't tell anyone I moved home. I let my Instagram followers think I was still living in that trendy loft downtown, still sipping overpriced lattes and ordering Pad See Ew from the place Gavin and I used to walk to. I reused old photos. I blurred the background in selfies. I kept the illusion alive because admitting the truth felt worse than the breakup. That I lost everything chasing something shinier. That I dumped the only man who ever looked at me like I was magic. And I did it because I thought I could do better. My mom didn't say much when I moved back in. Just opened the garage, pointed to the boxes she'd saved from my college years and said, "You can sleep in your brother's old room." I turned yours into an office. I stared at the bunk bed, the faded posters of bands I'd made fun of in high school, and realized how far I'd fallen. At night, I scrolled through Gavin's socials with a burner account, watched his stories like they were episodes of a show I used to star in. He wasn't flashy. No luxury trips, no gym thirst traps, no cryptic quotes. Just calm. Coffee mugs, his dog, sunsets, books I never saw him read before. And then, her. She wasn't in every post. That would have been merciful. Instead, she appeared like an aftertaste. A hand brushing into frame, a shadow on the couch, a blurry reflection in a window. Enough to remind me she was there. That I wasn't. I hated her. Not because she was prettier or better or kinder, but because she was quiet. She didn't fight for attention. She didn't flaunt anything. She just fit. She made Gavin's new life look effortless. And maybe I could have handled all that if I still had my job. But my influencer-adjacent content wasn't performing anymore. The algorithm hated me. My DMs dried up. The brand that used to send me free skincare stopped replying. I started tagging them obsessively, hoping for a repost. Nothing. So I applied for jobs. No callbacks. Not one. Turns out, aesthetic strategist and social media maven don't mean much when your feed is fake and your engagement tanked. I lied on my resume. Claimed I worked in marketing. Said I had Excel skills. I didn't. Got a Zoom interview and faked confidence for 15 minutes straight. They never followed up. I was running out of money. Again. I sold the $1,200 dress for $80. I pawned jewelry Gavin had given me, ones that I used to call too delicate, because I liked bolder, flashier pieces. I texted Alex once, half drunk, just, "Hey." He replied with, "New phone, who's this?" I deleted the message before I could read it twice. I started serving tables. It was supposed to be temporary, a restart, something to tide me over. But when I walked into that upscale restaurant and saw the host hand me an apron and say, "You'll shadow Eliza tonight," I felt something crack. Eliza was 23, bubbly, toned, perfect teeth. The kind of girl I would have rolled my eyes at a year ago. Now I was following her like a ghost, nodding while she explained which side to set the fork on. "You got it?" I smiled. I didn't. By week 3, I was good enough to be on my own. The tips were okay. The manager liked me. I wore black slacks from Target and sneakers I swore I'd never wear in public. I kept my head down. Until it was a Friday. Busy. Warm. One of those nights where everyone orders cocktails they can't pronounce and forgets how to tip. I was 3 tables deep, sweating under string lights, when I saw him. Gavin.
At table 14. I froze. He hadn't seen me yet. He was laughing, relaxed. His hair was longer, his sleeves rolled up. He looked happy. And then I saw her, sitting beside him. Not across, beside. Close enough their knees touched. Her hand rested on his. She leaned in and said something. He smiled. She was real. Not just a shadow or a rumor or a blurry figure in the background. And she turned to look directly at me. Not recognition, not gloating, just polite curiosity. Like I was a stranger, a server. "Hi, can we see the wine list?" I nodded. And as I walked away, legs trembling, tray shaking in my hands, I caught a glimpse of Gavin's phone lighting up on the table. A new notification. A text from someone saved as Mom. The preview said, "Thanks for bringing her over tonight. We adore her."
I made it through the shift somehow. Didn't cry, didn't drop a glass, didn't scream when Eliza leaned over and whispered, "That guy at 14, hot, right?" I just nodded and smiled and asked Gavin and his new girlfriend if they wanted still or sparkling, like I had at once imagined walking down an aisle to him, barefoot on some beach, crying because I'd finally found my person. He ordered sparkling. She ordered the same. Of course she did. They left me a $40 tip on a $220 bill. Gavin didn't look me in the eye. She thanked me sweetly. And that should have been it. But 2 days later, I got a notification from Instagram. @GavinLyons tagged you in a post. I felt sick before I even opened it. It was a carousel. First slide, Gavin standing outside a cozy house with a sold sign in front, arm around her waist, both of them beaming. Second slide, the house's kitchen. White cabinets, huge island, familiar tile backsplash. Third slide, a living room with the same woven rug I picked out 2 years ago. Fourth slide, a close-up of a keychain that read, "Home is who you come back to." The caption? "Didn't have to go far to find everything I ever needed. Grateful for second chances with the right person." He didn't tag her, he tagged me. Just me. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Thousands of likes, comments from mutuals. Wait, this is the house you two almost bought? Wow, manifesting real love. She's gorgeous, bro. Congrats. And I realized something that made my throat close. He bought the house we almost bought. The house I made him walk away from because I wasn't ready to settle and needed to be closer to the city. And now he was back in it. With her. And he knew I'd see it. That's why he tagged me. Not to start a fight, not to reconnect, but to erase me publicly. To show everyone who'd followed our breakup that he won. That he got the life I didn't believe he could build without me. I felt like someone had uploaded my private journal and added better lighting. Worse, I just lost my lease. My manager at the restaurant had cut my hours. Apparently, one of the newer servers had a more consistent vibe and better energy, whatever that meant. I had 6 days to figure something out. I called my mom. She said, "Again?" I hung up. That night, I messaged Gavin. I know. Stupid, weak, pathetic. But I had this fantasy, tiny, irrational, tucked away in the back of my chest like a crumpled receipt from a better day, that he'd read my message and remember how we used to be, that maybe he'd want closure, that maybe he felt even an ounce of what I felt. I wrote, "Saw your post. House looks beautiful. She's lucky. I mean that." I hovered over send for a full minute before tapping it. He saw it, didn't
reply. Just unfollowed me. That stung worse than anything. I'd rather he blocked me, reported me, cursed me out, but he just disappeared. Quietly. Coldly. And that was the moment it hit me. He didn't care. Not even enough to hate me. I was nothing now. Worse than the ex, I was the lesson, the cautionary tale he got over. I lay in bed that night, staring at the water-stained ceiling, feeling the weight of everything I gave up for clout, control, a version of success that didn't even love me back. And that's when my phone buzzed again. A DM from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in forever. Hey, not sure if you saw this, but thought you'd want to know. It was a link. A TikTok. I tapped it, and there he was. Gavin, dressed in a tux, standing at a podium at some fancy award gala, smiling awkwardly as the crowd clapped. The caption said, "From broke barista to founder of a $2 million tech startup, Gavin Lyons shares how betrayal pushed him to build." I stared at the video, watched him thank his new team, his partner, and her, by name, called her his rock during the darkest transition of his life. I turned the sound off and watched again, and again, until I noticed something in the background, a flash of a familiar logo, a banner with a corporate name. I zoomed in, froze. The company that awarded him was the same one I applied to 6 months ago, the same job I'd lied on the resume for. He was now a keynote speaker at the company that rejected me. And I hadn't even realized I served his fucking victory dinner.
I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stared at the screen, blank-faced, as the TikTok played again on loop. Gavin's voice muted, his smile lit up under spotlight while a whole goddamn room stood to applaud him. I watched the comments roll in. Iconic, proving the haters wrong. This guy used heartbreak like jet fuel. His ex fumbled so hard, LMAO. I didn't need to scroll far to see that someone had already found my profile and tagged me. I hadn't even posted in weeks. Still, people were commenting on old photos, liking stuff from a year ago. One girl wrote, "You good, sis?" Another, "Imagine losing that." I threw the phone, like physically threw it across the room. It bounced off the wall, cracked the screen, landed between the takeout containers I hadn't bothered to clean up all week. I looked around the studio apartment I couldn't afford anymore. The peeling paint, the half-deflated air mattress, the pile of unopened mail, bills I was too scared to open. And I thought, how the fuck did I end up here? I used to be the girl with plans, the one who leveled up, the one who people asked for advice. Now I was the girl who broke up with the man who had become someone else's dream because I thought I deserved more, because I thought I could do better. And maybe I could have, but the version of better I chased, it wasn't real. Not the guy I dumped Gavin for, not the job I lied to get, not the apartment I couldn't sustain. Everything I touched turned to ash the moment I let go of the one person who ever looked at me like I was home. But I didn't spiral that night. No. I spiraled 3 days later, when I saw the announcement. Gavin and his new girlfriend were officially engaged. The same girl from the restaurant, the same one in the Instagram carousel. There they were, on the beach, matching white outfits, her hand on his chest, the ring so huge it practically blinded me through the screen. The caption? "She saw me before I became me." And you know what hit the hardest? Not the ring, not the beach, not the comments saying power couple and real upgrade.
It was the likes. Mutual friends, my cousin, my ex-coworker, people I used to grab brunch with every Sunday. They all liked it. Some even commented, "Knew you'd find your person. You two are meant to be. So happy for you, Gavin." Nobody asked how I was. Nobody said, "Damn, that's rough for her." I had become invisible. Erased. Like I'd been the detour and she was the destination. And I didn't even have the dignity to pretend I was okay. Because the next day, I came home to a yellow notice on my door. Eviction warning. I had 12 days. No savings. No backup plan. I called the only person who might still talk to me, my older brother. He answered like he was surprised I still had his number. I told him everything. The job, the breakup, the bills, the eviction. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You know, he reached out to me once, Gavin." I sat up straight. "What?" "He asked if you were okay. Said he didn't want to be in contact, but he hoped you were figuring things out." I swallowed hard. "What did you say?" I told him I didn't know, because I didn't. You ghosted everyone after you dumped him. Like the whole family was guilty by association. I bit my lip. He wasn't wrong. Then he added, "You should reach out to Mom." I laughed. Loud, bitter, ugly. "She told me I was an embarrassment last time we spoke." "She told you the truth. You just didn't like hearing it." Click. He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. No messages, no notifications, no job offers, no rent relief. I opened Gavin's Instagram again. I shouldn't have, but I did. There was a new story. A boomerang of champagne glasses clinking, one of them held by her hand, the rings sparkling, captioned, "To new chapters, R.I.P." I closed it, walked to the window, looked out at the city that once felt like mine, and thought about the last thing I had of his, an old hoodie buried in my closet, the one he gave me when we took a spontaneous road trip upstate, when we got lost and had to sleep in the car, when I curled into him like I'd never leave. I pulled it out, held it, put it on. It didn't even smell like him anymore. Just me, alone. And then my phone buzzed. An email. From the job I lied to get, the one that ghosted me after the interview. Subject line: "Regarding your falsified credentials, pending legal action." I opened it, read the words fraud, breach of contract, and HR violation, and my heart stopped.
I didn't know emails could make you physically sick. But when I read that line, pending legal action, my stomach twisted so hard I had to run to the bathroom and throw up the cold coffee I'd sipped for breakfast. I sat on the tile floor afterward, back against the tub, shaking. Not from fear, yet. From disbelief. Because even after everything, part of me had still believed I could land on my feet. I'd always landed on my feet. Manipulated the angle, spun the story, worn the right dress, said the perfect regret-soaked line. Gotten by. But this was the kind of fallout you don't bounce back from. Because if they pressed charges, if word got out that I falsified my education on the application for a 6-figure PR job, I'd never work in the city again. I'd be radioactive. I sat there long enough that the light shifted in the room, the sun dropped behind the building across the alley, and shadows crawled up the wall like judgment. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stood, pulled my hair into a bun with a trembling hand, and started Googling. I typed, "What happens if you fake degree on resume? HR breach, first offense, jail. Is it illegal to lie on job application? Every link screamed the same thing: consequences. Fines, lawsuits, career destruction. Some even mentioned jail time. I slammed the laptop shut, sat in the dark, felt the panic finally catch up to me and clamp down on my lungs like a vice. I needed air. I needed someone. I called Natalie, my old college roommate, one of the few people I hadn't burned completely. She answered on the third ring. "Hey, stranger." Her voice was warm, familiar, unaware, and I cracked. I told her everything. Not all at once, just enough. That I was broke, that I'd lost my job, that I was being sued, that I had no one left, that I'd messed up. She was quiet. I braced myself. But then she sighed and said, "Come stay with me." My knees buckled. "You're serious?" "Yeah, my roommate just moved out. I got a spare room. It's not fancy, but it's yours." I could have cried. Instead, I packed a bag. Half my stuff was in trash bags anyway. I left the eviction notice on the door like a post-it of shame and walked out. 2 subway rides, and 45 minutes later, I stood in front of Natalie's building. Small, brick, a little rundown, but clean and safe. She hugged me like I was still the girl she once knew. I wasn't. But I let myself pretend. For one night, I had a bed again. A door to close, a pillow that didn't smell like failure. But peace didn't last. Because 2 days later, it happened. The final exposure. Not the lawsuit, that was still pending. Not Gavin's engagement photos, they were old news now. No, this was worse. Because it came from me. Or rather, it looked like it came from me. A screenshot of texts between me and Gavin. Or at least what looked like me, begging him to take me back, offering things, saying things, vulgar, manipulative, pathetic things. Someone posted them on Reddit, relationship advice subreddit. Huge reach. Tagged it with, "My ex is stalking me again, please help." Used a throwaway account, but the screenshots went viral within hours. People in the comments were vicious. They doxed me, found my LinkedIn. Someone even dug up the old campaign I'd worked on, where I was the face of "Empowered Women Don't Beg." Now I was the punchline. Natalie showed me the post with trembling hands. She said, "Tell me this isn't you." I shook my head so fast I felt dizzy. "I swear to God, Nat, I never wrote those." She didn't say anything. Just looked at me like a stranger. That night, I lay awake listening to the walls creak and the city hum outside, and I realized something horrifying. This wasn't just karma. This was calculated. Gavin had done this. He hadn't posted it directly, of course not. He was smarter than that, but I knew him. I knew how methodical he could be when he finally snapped. And I knew who his fiancée was now, Emily, the girl who'd spent years working in digital risk management. The girl who once told me, half drunk at a Christmas party, "Everyone's got a weak spot. All you need is one thread and the whole image unravels." She had mine. She had the resume lie, the fake texts, the timeline of my downfall, and if I was right, she and Gavin had crafted the perfect public evisceration. Silent, stylish, untraceable. They weren't just moving on, they were erasing me. I needed to fight back. I needed to prove the screenshots were fake, that I hadn't begged, that I hadn't chased, that I wasn't desperate. I needed someone to believe me. But when I opened my phone to start recording a video, a confession, a rebuttal, a plea, I saw it. Pinned to the top of Gavin's Instagram. A new reel. Him, in a tuxedo, on a stage,
accepting some startup founder award, smiling, holding Emily's hand. Caption, "Sometimes the best revenge is silence." And that's when I knew there was nothing left to defend.
I didn't leave the apartment for 4 days, not even to get coffee. Natalie started knocking on my door less and less. First to check if I needed anything, then just to say hi, then nothing. I knew she'd seen the comments. I'd stopped reading them after the one that said I looked like a washed-up trophy wife who never made it to the shelf. But they still haunted me. When I blinked, when I tried to sleep, when I scrolled without touching the screen. I wasn't just irrelevant, I was embarrassing. The kind of woman people made TikToks about, dissecting where she went wrong, what her villain origin story was, how she had it all and still self-destructed. And I couldn't even argue, because they weren't wrong. Every move I'd made had been a spotlight on my worst self. And now the audience had turned. They weren't applauding. They were throwing popcorn and screenshots. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who stared back. Eyes puffy, skin blotchy, hair greasy and limp. And then I remembered something that made me physically recoil. I used to mock girls like this. Back in college, we'd walk past some girl crying on a bench, and I'd whisper to my friends, someone didn't get the ring she ordered. Now I'd be lucky to be the background character in someone else's happy ending. The final straw came in a brown envelope. Legal notice. Then, impersonal. Inside, paperwork. The deed transfer. Gavin was officially removing my name from the title of the house. The same house I'd fought tooth and nail to keep in the divorce. The same house I used to walk through barefoot, glass of wine in hand, humming like some suburban queen. Now I was being erased from it. Like a typo. No note, no message, just a line at the bottom that said, "For your records, G." That dash, that little impersonal scribble, it broke me more than any scream would have. I stood in the kitchen shaking. I wanted to scream, shatter something, set the goddamn envelope on fire. But I didn't. Instead, I dressed in silence. Blacked out jeans, tight black top, boots I hadn't worn since my last job interview. I looked like I was going to war. In a way I was. Because I needed to see him. Face to face. I needed closure. Or revenge. Or maybe just proof I wasn't invisible. I showed up at the cafe near his new place. The one that Natalie had mentioned when she was still cheering me up. He takes Emily there every Saturday. They sit outside. Super cutesy. Perfect. I waited across the street, sunglasses on, heart in my throat. And sure enough, there they were. Gavin in a navy button-down, laughing. Emily in a sundress, hair pulled back, glowing like a skincare ad. Her hand rested casually on his thigh like she owned it forever. I watched for a full 10 minutes, trying to feel something. Anger, envy, regret. But what I felt was worse. Emptiness. They didn't look like replacements or copy-paste versions of what we were. They looked better, happier, realer. And I was a ghost, a bad chapter they had already survived. I turned to leave. Pride made me take just one step before I looked again. And that's when it happened. Emily saw me. Her eyes landed on mine like lasers. She tilted her head, smiled. Not cruelly, not smugly, just knowingly. Like she knew that I wouldn't walk over, wouldn't scream, wouldn't fight, because I didn't have the strength left. And then she did the unthinkable. She lifted her phone, took a picture of me, alone, on the sidewalk, staring. Then she leaned into Gavin and whispered something. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me, didn't flinch,
just kept sipping his latte and laughing like I didn't exist. I stumbled back, hit someone's shoulder, mumbled an apology, walked faster. I didn't know where I was going. Just away. Back to Natalie's. Back to shame. Back to nothing. But when I got there, the door was locked. I rang the buzzer. No answer. My heart raced. I texted her. "Hey, weird, the door's locked. You home?" No reply. 10 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. From Natalie. One sentence. "I think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay." I blinked. Reread it. No explanation. No apology. Just gone. My vision blurred. I sat on the front steps, holding my bag, realizing I'd run out of second chances. Out of couches, out of people, out of dignity. And then the worst thought hit me. Maybe this was the revenge. Not just from Gavin, but from everyone. Everyone I used, lied to, manipulated, performed for. They weren't coming back. They were closing doors. And I was finally, irrevocably, alone.
I moved into a sublet with 2 roommates half my age. They wore crop tops in winter and said things like slay and ate that. One of them asked if I was like someone's aunt. I told her I was just figuring things out. She laughed, not cruelly, just like I was irrelevant. That laugh was worse than cruelty. It was dismissal. It was how I used to laugh at women who lost their glow. Now, I was her. The woman who used to post brunch selfies with the caption, "Grateful, not desperate." Now, I was just surviving. I found a bartending job through a friend of a guy I used to ignore. The shifts were brutal. The tips, unpredictable. I worked until 2 a.m., came home smelling like tequila and defeat. And the worst part? People recognized me. Not from fame, not from status, from Gavin. "Oh my God, aren't you his ex?" They never even said his name. He was just him. The one who made it out. And then came poetic. I saw it on someone's story first. A vineyard ceremony, golden light, Emily in a sleeveless lace dress, looking like the Pinterest board I used to gatekeep. Gavin, my Gavin, in a tailored 3-piece suit, smiling like the world had never hurt him. The caption? She got the man, the house, and the empire. Empire? I blinked. Scrolled. Clicked. There it was. He'd launched his own business, a tech startup, sustainable logistics or some shit. Funded, backed, featured in Forbes under 35. His company name was, I shit you not, Clarity. The fucking irony! I sat in my tiny bed with peeling paint behind me, staring at the screen like it would apologize. But it didn't. The universe never apologizes. I told myself I didn't care, that it was all for show, that Emily would eventually get bored or he'd see through her. But then the job posted the schedule. He'd rented out the bar for the wedding after party. I thought it was a joke. Checked the calendar 3 times. Nope. Gavin, Emily, their friends, their celebration, my shift. I tried to switch. Begged, really. But the manager said no. Said I should be grateful. Big tips that night. You'll thank me later. Yeah, sure. So I worked. I showed up in black heels and red lipstick and told myself I was the villain now. Might as well look the part. They arrived at 9:13. She walked in first, like she owned the night. And maybe she did. People clapped. Music shifted. Champagne poured. I stood behind the bar, frozen. Until Gavin walked in and saw me. Our eyes locked. For one solid second, the world stopped. I waited for something. Recognition, discomfort, pity. But he just nodded. A polite, detached nod. Like I was the help. Which I guess I was. The guests drank, laughed, took pictures. At one point, Emily came up to the bar, ordered her signature cocktail, lavender gin fizz, extra foam, the same one I used to make Gavin. She smiled. I think you know how to make it. I did. I made it. Handed it to her. She held it, but didn't drink. Instead, she leaned in slightly. Don't worry, we tipped ahead of time. And walked away. I stood there shaking. I wanted to scream, cry, throw the bottle, run. But I didn't. I worked. I poured, smiled, nodded, until it was over. Until the lights dimmed and the guests spilled out into the cold night. Until the music stopped and they were gone. The bar was empty. I wiped down the counter, pulled off my heels, and sat on a crate in the back, breathing through my teeth. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. I hadn't opened the app in weeks, but muscle memory pulled me in. It was a photo. Tagged. Me behind the bar, head down, pouring a drink. Emily in the foreground, radiant. Caption, full circle. 5K likes in under 10 minutes. I stared at the screen, and finally, I felt the tears come. Not because they were happy, not because I was sad, but because I finally saw myself clearly. I wasn't the victim. I was the punchline. And the story wasn't about me anymore. It never had been.